whole thing is that culture and language tend to become traps, and yet they can be the platforms for enormous freedom if you understand what it's all about. And what it's all about is you.
I can't imagine what she felt. I can't imagine what a mother could feel. I'm sorry. This isn't acting. I'm actually crying. I can't imagine. I'm serious. I'm not actually doing a bit. It is really sad thinking how a mother could feel when they lose their child. So, what happened to Renala, it's not because her husband left her. It's her child died.
He became dizzy, his heart raced and his body trembled. The ground met him quickly as his skull was being crushed under the weight of intense dread until he let out a cry. A silent cry. One that squeezed all the life and will from a body and mind. A cry of pain, a cry of help, a cry no one could hear.
It's been really hard. And I made YouTube to tell the story of how Elden Ring helped me remember and how it healed me.
Dearest Nicola, you must abide alone a while.
On January 26, 2025, my best friend Luna died. She laid on my lap, and she died. After the vet took her away for cremation, I felt hollow and empty. So I played Elden Ring. I hadn't played Elden Ring, really played Elden Ring, in quite a few months. Although this is a channel dedicated to analyzing this video game, it isn't one that I play often. In fact, I don't play many video games nowadays. They just don't bring me much joy. They don't hold my interest like they used to. I really don't know what I do much nowadays.
You try to forget, but you'll never forget. You'll just remember, and remember, and remember.
The character I choose is one of my many Berserk cosplay builds. While I try different playstyles, I always go back to pretending I'm Guts, the Black Swordsman, alone in this fantasy world looking for monsters to slay and mysteries to uncover. Although I've played this game for nearly 1,000 plus hours, written hundreds of pages deconstructing the story's magic, politics, and spent countless nights editing and editing and editing.
And crying and crying and crying. Boo fucking hell. Woe is me.
There's always something new I can find when I decide to sit down and just play the game. The character I picked was on his way to the Abyssal Woods, the lowest region of the Shadowlands that has been infected with the Flame of Frenzy, a chaotic force that can invoke madness and essentially destroy everything.
Everything. I'm always with you.
Tied to one of the 6 major endings of Elden Ring, the Flame of Frenzy is typically ranked as one of the game's most popular endings, generally right behind the Dark Moon ending, where your character marries a doll and the world is turned into their personal snow globe for 1,000 years. But in the Flame of Frenzy ending, after traveling to the depths of the earth and having their flesh seared by some malevolent cosmic force, your character's head is replaced with a fireball and the world is consumed in fire and chaos. The game's heroine will beg and plead with your character to not go down this path. She says it is chaos, devouring all life and thought unending.
Every day, constantly on your mind. It's all you can think about. You can feel it creep through you still.
After completing the Abyssal Woods and coming to the Decaying Manor, we are shown exactly how someone becomes the Lord of Frenzy Flame. I could tell you all the lore and all the made-up history, what they were doing here, why this guy looks like this, read between the lines of each piece of dialogue. I could do this, that, and the other thing. I could do it all. But would you care? And would you listen? I could tell you that since I've read all of the books from the game's co-author, or played all of the games from the game's director, I could make a cinematic experience with music and Easter eggs and put weight into every word I write to explain to you what exactly is happening here. Or I can just show you that after enduring everything, to become the Lord of Frenzy Flame, all you have to do is end your own.
And you think you should too. Don't you, Joe?
This is one of the hardest videos for me to make, because this isn't a video about Elden Ring. This is a video about me.
Because Jack is a worthless, pathetic, vile, broken, disgusting, perverted, ruined waste of skin. Jack is a...
Amazing, talented, genius, George R. Martin expert. Jack is a mimic.
Jack is a mimic.
Jack is a mimic.
Jack is a mimic.
By Jack is a mimic.
And Jack is a mimic.
Jack is a mimic.
And of course, last but certainly not least, Jack the Mimic, whose content is a treasure trove of knowledge, and who is truly a talented storyteller.
Perhaps that was the answer all along. So let's put on the mask and tell a story. In times like these, what better place to start than at the end? Dear Jack, I know it's been hard for you to make videos lately. It's been hard for you to do a lot of things. You put so much pressure on yourself to try to be the best, to be worthy, to be accepted, and to be loved. You want to create something people will flock to, a piece of art that people will share. You want your name on everyone's lips and everyone's mind. You want to be seen, and you want to be heard. You think that if you get 1 million views, 10 million views, interviews, podcast invites, TV spots, a book deal, something, you will finally feel complete. But you know that won't do it. You know that none of that matters. You know as much as I know. And you know that it took half a bottle of wine and a pint of ice cream just to write this. So take a shot for me and just tell them a story. This time, make sure it's your story. Truly and always yours, the Mimic. P.S. When you take off the mask, don't be afraid. I'll always be here for you. Stay golden, kid. You know what to do. We are here today to face our past and reclaim our lives as survivors of childhood abuse. We know intuitively or objectively that we were physically, sexually, emotionally, or spiritually abused as children. We believe that our abuse has affected who we are as adults today. We are determined to remake our lives by taking back what was once taken from us. Our innocence, our power, our right to determine who we are and how we will live in this world. When I was 8 years old, I was sexually abused. And in December of 2023, for the first time in I don't know how long, I remembered that I was sexually abused. I played Elden Ring when it came out. I was in the middle of my master's degree, and I took 2 weeks off just to play the game. And then I kind of forgot about it. But around August 2023, I wanted to play it again. And my friend Connor said, "Oh, if you really like Elden Ring, you should read the manga Berserk." Because the director is really, he was really inspired by that comic book. So I read it, and at the end of, it follows this, like, really cool guy who has this, like, big sword. I don't know if you could see it. And he's, like, one bad dude, and he's kind of a jerk, and he fights all these monsters. And then, like, at the end of the first few issues, you learn that he was that he was raped as a child. And one night, my mom was visiting, and I don't know, she said something to me, and it triggered a memory. And I just felt so anxious and so confused. I had to go into the bathroom to be alone, and I closed the door, and I just curled up into a ball, and I didn't want anybody to hear me, and I just let out this cry. And I felt it through my whole body, and it scared me. And when I was laying in bed, going to sleep, I was just thinking back through my life. I was just thinking, what happened? And I just started crying, and I woke up my wife, and I told her, I think I was sexually abused as a child. I made one Elden Ring video at that time, and I wanted to do something where I could tell my story secretly through Elden Ring and through videos, and I thought, some people would pick it up and they would, I don't know, that I could do something like this, that I could speak out and tell other people. The story that really resonated with me was Ronnie and Renala, and I didn't know why it resonated with me so much. But every time I would talk about them, it would make me really upset. Every time I tried to write a script about them, I would cry. I couldn't help myself, because as I saw the story, this character was grieving her daughter who committed suicide. And I didn't know why. I just thought it was a moving story and no one was talking about it. But when I remembered that I was abused, all of those feelings came back. All of those feelings of anxiety and depression and self-loathing and It all came back. I didn't know. I didn't know I was suicidal. I forgot. Sometimes when I see knives, I feel a pain in my wrists. I have to like curl up. I get very uncomfortable. And it was because when I was 13 years old, I tried to slit my wrists. I didn't know if I was trying to kill myself or what, but I did. I was trying to, but I didn't. I couldn't. I got this tattoo on my arm. I don't know if you could see it. Of the sword that Guts has in Berserk. And at the time I was just thinking, it's because he went through what I did and he struggled too. But whenever I get that feeling in this arm, I feel it where the sword is. And that, I don't know, it just makes me feel a little more comfortable. I don't know what I'm trying to do with this video. I guess I'll just tell my story. I'll tell you what happened. When I was 8 years old, there was a teenage neighbor. He lived in a kind of a dilapidated house, like 2 doors down from me, with either just his father or his uncle, and he just moved to the street only temporarily. They were renting the house. And I don't know how I started talking to him, but he was in high school. He must have been 16, 17, or 18. And somehow, he got me to go over into his house. And he had video games I didn't have. At the time, the cool game was, at least the cool game that he had was The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the N64, and that's what I wanted to play. Eventually, that escalated into him showing me pornography on VHS tapes, and essentially sexually abusing me. But not just him. There was other people. I don't know if there were other teenagers, if there were men, but he brought people over and they would abuse me. One time I remember this kid, he asked me, so-and-so told me you will do this, that, and the other thing. Is it true? And I said, no, it's not true. No, it's not. I say so-and-so because I don't remember my abuser's name. But I remember the redheaded kid named who asked me that. Who essentially told me that my primary abuser was trying to traffic me to other kids or guys in school or whoever else for what? I don't know, money or something. But after that moment, everything changed for me. I started performing so poorly in school. I started to just feel so depressed. I remember in 4th grade, I just said out loud to the teacher and to the whole class, I said, I just was crying and I was just like, nobody likes me. I just felt so worthless. I learned recently last year, it was around November, it was between the holidays. I had a dream or a memory that there might have been that there was another abuser. I don't know the specifics. And then after that, I went to my support group, Adult Survivors Childhood Abuse, and I shared with them how I felt. And then I heard a voice in my head, it was my voice, and it said to me, you should kill yourself. And that was the first suicidal ideation I had since I was probably 18 years old. And it really scared me. And it still scares me. That there are these feelings that I have because I was sexually abused as a child that make me want to end my own life or hurt myself. And the reason I just want you to know how hard it is, what it's like when I get triggered into remembering the abuse. When I get a flashback, I physically feel like I'm being abused all over again. I'm 30 years old. And something will happen, and I will feel like an 8-year-old boy again, with a grown man on top of me, with his hands around my throat, and him inside of my body. I feel myself go limp, and I can't move, or I break down into hysterics, and I cry, and I get manic, and I just ramble. I recently started doing this year yoga, meditation, and jujitsu. And during jujitsu, sometimes during sparring, I will get triggered. And I'll need to tap out. Because my body is responding to wrestling with other guys, and it just doesn't know it's in a safe place. My first class, I cried after ending a sparring. I cried, and I just couldn't hold it in. But tonight at jiu-jitsu, I didn't cry at all. I finished and I was smiling. Even in moments when I'm intimate with my wife, I can get triggered. I haven't told anyone that. I haven't told her. I don't want to scare her. But it happens. It happened last week. I felt like I was being abused, and I was just trying to have a romantic, intimate moment with the woman I love and who cares for me and who supports me. But I can't just be normal. It's so hard. It's so hard. And sometimes I just feel so lonely. Even though I know I'm not alone. Nearly every single person I've told, and I've told over 100 people so far, that I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, they have told me that I'm worthy, and that I'm worth it, and that they're proud of me. But sometimes I don't feel it. And I don't know why. The game Elden Ring is really meaningful to me because it comes from two of my favorite authors. And, if you haven't played it, whatever. But I love so many of the characters, but one of the characters I love the most is, I guess, the antagonist of the whole game. His name's Mikola. And he's a child who is cursed for eternity. And there's this character. He's cursed for eternity with eternal youth. And he gets abducted by this monster with horns so they could literally share a bloody bedchamber. And when I see that, I see a child being abused. But the conversation around it's just so gross. It's just so gross. I don't know. I can't even play this game anymore without just feeling like so, like, seeing all that imagery. There's just so much. This year my goal for 2025 was to heal. In 2024, I did a lot of remembering. I learned that when I remember too hard, if I trigger a memory that is too intense, I will disassociate and I'll forget that it happened. A lot of the scripts that I wrote for Elden Ring, for my YouTube channel, I triggered myself while writing them. And then I would disassociate and then I would forget. In one of those disassociative episodes, I did something to help myself in the future. Part of my abuse was being groomed with pornography, and I was 8 years old. When we got a computer in our house, and I had access to the internet, I was also given access to internet pornography. And from about 10 years old, I have been addicted to pornography. And this year, I'm trying to quit. Since January, I've only slipped 5 times. And I'm really proud of myself. When I disassociated last, when I was in that mental state, I deleted every account I had on an adult website. I deleted any downloaded material I had on my computer. I removed any passwords I had stored anywhere. And I wrote myself a note, essentially telling myself to try to heal. It's what I use to cope. And the past month has been really hard for me. Because I'm trying not to use that unhealthy way to cope. I can't look at that stuff anymore without seeing other possible survivors and victims. I just can't. I can't. And it hurts me. It hurts me to think that there's so many people out there, whether they're displaying it online or not, that are like me and that are hurt. So I guess I wanted to make a video like this, to make a YouTube channel like this, to tell you that you're not alone. You're never alone. Even though it sometimes feels like you are. I'm exhausted now. I feel so tired. Okay. Now that I've shared that all with you, now that it's out there, I want to give you all something. Something that might help someone like me. Something that can have a positive impact on a survivor's life. Since childhood sexual abuse is far more common than most people realize. Research suggests that approximately 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will experience sexual abuse before adulthood. Many of these cases occur before the age of 12, though exact statistics vary due to underreporting and differences in study methodologies. Out of my 13,000 subscribers, approximately 2,700 are survivors of childhood sexual abuse. So I want you to think about the adult survivor of childhood abuse in your life that you've known or suspected to for some time. And if you are that survivor, I want you to think about yourself now. What support can you offer to the survivor? 1. Believe the survivor. Believe the survivor. And if you are the survivor, trust your memories. 2, do not say, unless you are also a survivor of childhood abuse, that you know how they feel. You don't. But what you can offer is that it was not your fault. It was not your fault. 3, become the love and support and compassion that all survivors deserve. 4, encourage the survivor to get help and to heal. And finally, the last thing to understand is healing is a journey. Many survivors keep a journal. I created a YouTube channel. I put my journal out there into the world, but I wrote it in code and I hid my recovery in plain sight. I named my channel Jack is a Mimic because that's what it feels like sometimes. I don't feel like me. I'm just pretending. I'm just acting. I hope that if I showed the world that I was a mimic, some of you would show me that you were too. And then neither of us would feel so alone. And if you came here for just the Elden Ring lore, I won't leave you hanging. Here are all the mimics that I found in Elden Ring. But out of all of them, my favorite is Radigan. Mostly because I think he is the most like me, but also because he might be the most like you. If this video resonated with you, consider sharing it. I want you all to know that you're not alone. We are not alone. And if you would like to support me directly, I will be running in the 2025 Chicago Marathon for the charity The Mercy Home for Boys and Girls. They are a Chicago-based charity that offers a safe place to live, therapy to heal, education to grow, and mentorship to guide children who have faced abuse, neglect, and trauma. To help kids break the cycle of trauma and help me reach my goal of raising $2,100, please consider donating with the link below, because no distance is too far to save a child. And lastly, before I go, I would like to share with you something I wrote in one of my many journals. January 23rd, 2025. I'm finding beauty in my recovery. I'm crying because I feel so much pride in how far I've come and all the places I'm going to go. My potential is limitless, and I live a life that's worth not just living, but cherishing. These are sacred silver tears poured into a heart of gold. Because for the first time in a long time, it feels harder to be lonely than it does to bring joy. Truly yours, Jack Dixon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.